The House will come to order.
On guard. Halt. Half-left pinwheel. Hutch. Rifles. Ready. Load. Colors. Ready. Load. Host the colors. Present. Arms.
The Pledge of Allegiance today will be led by Cadet Second Lieutenant Nathaniel Levitt, Mustang Cadet Squadron, Civil Air Patrol, Centennial, Colorado.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Colors. Ready. Move. Port. Arms. Rifles. Ready. Move. On guard. Upright and will. March. Forward. March.
We want to express our many thanks to the Mustang Cadet Squadron Color Guard, Cadet Captain Chad Lewis, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Andrew Connor, Cadet Staff Sergeant Noah Morgan, and Cadet Airman First Class Spencer Clancy. Mr. Kohler, please call the roll.
Representatives Arndt. Here. Becker J. Becker K. Brown. Here. Buck. Here. Buckner. Carver. Conti. Corum.
Go.
Court. Danielson. Del Grosso. Dorr. Duran. Here. Esgar. Everett. Fields. Foote. Garnett. Janal. Hamner. Humphrey. Joshi. Kagan. Klingenschmidt. Kraft-Tharp. Landgraf. Lawrence. Lebsock. Lee. Leonard. Lontine. Lundeen. McCann. Melton. Mitch Bush. Moreno. Navarro. Neville.
Jim.
Nordberg. Pabone. Pedersen. Yeah. Primavera. Priola. Rankin. Ransom. Rosenthal. Rupe. Ryden. Sane. Salazar. Sias.
See it, I'll just use that.
Singer. Thurlow.
I'll leave it up there.
Tyler. Van Winkle. Vigil. Willett. Williams. Wilson. Windholes. Winter. Wist. Young. Madam Speaker. Yeah.
With 65 present, 0 absent or excused, a quorum is present. Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the reading of the Journal of March 11th, 2016 be dispensed with and that it be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. Do I need to do it again?
You have heard the motion that the journal be adopted as corrected by the chief clerk. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Almost unanimously. Announcements and introductions. Announcements and introductions. While you're all rushing the podium here, the speaker has two announcements. One, in the Agricultural and Natural Resources Committee, today only, Representative Willett will replace Representative Brown. In the Finance Committee, Representative Sias will replace Representative Priola until further notice. Further announcements. Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members.
Would you give me 2 minutes? We're getting noisy again. May I have your attention, members? Let's start this week off right, and please take your side conversations to the side and give your respect and listen to the person at the well who is making an announcement. So please proceed.
Thank you,
Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know that it might be a little bit of time before the resolution comes over from the Senate, but today is the Civil Air Patrol Day at the Capitol. And I want you to please look at the brochure that's on your desks, and there's a magazine also. But I think a lot of us aren't aware of the wonderful service that these volunteer members provide to our state. And it starts at the cadet level with the young people you saw up here today doing the colors and the pledge. And it goes all the way through to senior pilots who help us find people lost in the wilderness and who help us do all kinds of things to help our local public service as well as our military. And I know that it may be a while before the resolution comes over, so I want to just briefly let you know some of the folks that will be here joining us today. We will have Colonel Celeste Gamache, the wing commander, Colonel Gary Toby, the Government Relations Advisor, Lieutenant Colonel Gary Falls, the Director of Cadet Programs, Captain Lynn Parker, the Director of Public Affairs, Lieutenant Colonel Tom Scheffel, Captain Reed Lester, Major Helen Gray, and Major Wes Morosco. So please, some are here now, some are coming. Please welcome them.
Representative Rupe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So members, some of us are actually majors in the Civil Air Patrol, and we have a role to play with our Civil Air Patrol folks as we operate as a state during emergencies. So I'm not sure if you're aware if you are a Civil Air Patrol member or not, but I sure would like to see at least some hands if you are.
Members, you received your membership and your major cards this year. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Brown.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And tomorrow morning is our Bible study downstairs at 7:15. Come on down, get a sandwich, and let's study the Bible. You're all welcome. Thank you.
Representative McCann.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, we have the Claw Caucus meeting this week on Thursday. I'm sure our Minority Leader Del Grosso will be there. It will be Thursday across the street in LSB B, and it's at noon. Lunch will be provided for legislators. The topic has to do with service dogs. You know, we are having some legislation this year about service dogs, so we'll be talking about service dogs. So hope to see you on Thursday.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, it was really tough for me to show up in the chamber this morning because this weekend I got to see and hold my new granddaughter. I thought she was impressed with her grandpa, but then I realized with the second photo, maybe not. But I was very impressed with her.
Very nice announcement. Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And so members, I'd like to let you know about an event today that I'm sponsoring. And just because we haven't heard about maybe refugees and immigrants lately doesn't mean that this is not an issue. It is an issue. So today there's a forum at the Old Supreme Court chambers from 11:45 to 1:30, which all of you and your staffs are invited to. Lunch will be provided to members. So the topic is understanding the resettlement process and the refugee community in Colorado. So I hope you all will make it. I think it will be very informative, and you'll be able to certainly ask questions and give your opinions. So hopefully you can come today. Again, Refugees 101 today, 11:45 to 1:30, and there'll be lunch as well. Thank you.
Representative Ruppe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Having spoken to the Majority Leader and the Minority Leader, I request permission to be excused on the 17th and 18th of March for a medical procedure.
Please proceed. Are you done?
It's just a medical procedure, Madam Speaker, and thank you.
Excuse granted. Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee, our schedule this afternoon continues to be whittled down. We are now going to hear 4 bills: Senate Bill 34, House Bill 1206, House Bill 1221, and House Bill 1126. We will see you at 1:30 in LSB-A. Thank you.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Having talked to the Minority Leader and the Majority Leader, I ask for Thursday from 3 o'clock on and Friday after the floor off.
That you are excused for.
Thank you.
That. Representative Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. We have a group of Corey Merrill middle schoolers, 4th graders, walking into the gallery right now. If we could all give them a huge round of applause. They are visiting the Capitol today.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. After consulting with the Majority Leader and the Minority Leader, I ask permission to be excused tomorrow, Tuesday, March 15th, and I look forward to seeing you all on Wednesday.
Your excuse is granted for tomorrow. Representative Carver.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a reminder, we're having Veterans Caucus today at noon in room 112, and the program is State Veteran Services. We're going to be hearing from the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs and CDLE's veterans programs. Thank you.
Are there further announcements and introductions? Seeing none, the next order of business is general orders, second reading of bills. Representative Danielson.
Madam Speaker, I move the House now resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders.
You have heard the motion. Seeing no objections, Representative Danielson will take the chair.
Sorry. The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request to read them at length. Committee amendments will not be read unless requested, as they are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and are on your iPads, but not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over upon request of the Majority Leader, and the coat rule is relaxed. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1306.
House Bill 1306 by Representative Williams, also Senator Holbrook, concerning revision of the state statutes governing mortgage loan originators to conform more closely to applicable federal law in connection with amending, relocating, and repealing provisions in accordance with the Federal Secure and Fair Enforcement for Mortgage Licensing Act of 2008.
Woohoo! Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1306 and the Business Affairs and Labor Committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, the committee report had an amendment to combine sections 911 to 905.5 in the statute. It also references the CFPB, the regulated rules, and exemptions for loans made by parents to children don't have to be a licensed loan originator. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The committee report is adopted. To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, House Bill 1306, there are some new federal regulatory structures, and they haven't been adopted since 2007. And so it's a good time to clean up Colorado's mortgage loans originator statutes. The CMLA, Colorado Bankers Association, Independent Bankers of Colorado, and Land Title Association supports this bill, and the bill came out 13-0 unanimously, and I ask you for an aye vote.
Representative Norberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, this is a good bill. 1306 came out of committee unanimous, and certainly as CFPB continues to work at a rapid pace in D.C., we need to ensure that there are not conflicting regulatory standards for our mortgage loan originators, so I would ask for a yes vote.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1306? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1306. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1306 is adopted. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 94.
Senate Bill 94 by Senator Crowder, also Representative Vigil, concerning the shared costs of a district public health agency by the counties in the district.
Representative Vigil.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 94 is a bipartisan bill. Comes to us from Mineral County, Hinsdale County. What's happened there is that we've had a current law that prohibits them from actually doing the best thing for their communities, which is choosing what they want to do as far as treasurers and administrators. Right now they have to duplicate everything in two budgets, two sets of books, two accounting of everything. And so what this bill does, it gives them the freedom to be able to just combine those tasks into one. It just makes it a lot easier for them to be effective with each other, and this only applies to populations of counties of under 4,000 and 4,000 or under. And so this is a great bill for rural Colorado, and I ask for your support and an aye vote on this. It came out of committee with unanimous vote, so please help me out with this bill.
Thank you, Representative Vigil, and I think the correct motion would be to move your bill.
I move Senate Bill 94.
Thank you, Representative Vigil. Representative Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank Representative Vigil for bringing this bill. We share the two counties that this will really help. It will allow the counties to decide which county is going to take what responsibility. It's a real good bill and will help to streamline government at that county level. And so I would ask for a yes vote on this bill. It's a very important bill. Thank you.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 94? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 94. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 94 is passed. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1285.
House Bill 1285 by Representative Pabon, also Senator Crowder, concerning a procedure by which an applicant for a driver's license being used as a private vendor to re-administer the driving test after the applicant fails on the first attempt.
Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I move House Bill 1285. There is no committee report.
So moved. To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, House Bill 1285 is a public safety streamlining bill. It simply allows third-party driving testers to engage in a process where they already engage in for a number of driver's license types. And so we want to make sure that our private companies have ability to benefit economically, help small business, and protect our public safety. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Van Winkle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this bill is being advanced along on the premise that a dollar from an illegal immigrant spends the same as a dollar from a U.S. citizen, and from a purely business perspective, that makes a lot of sense. However, the bill is built upon the foundation of a bill that passed here several years ago, 251, and I would have voted against that bill because it directs government resources to issue driver's license to citizens from foreign countries. Since I would have voted against that bill, and because this bill further entrenches that program and advances Colorado as a sanctuary state, I will be a no against this vote. Thank you.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Van Winkle, sorry you weren't here back in that time, as I was the bill sponsor of Senate Bill 251. And 251 actually put something back in place which had already been happening in Colorado for decades. And that's that undocumented residents were able to receive driver's licenses well before 9/11. In fact, through the 50s, through the 40s, through the 70s, they had always been able to receive driver's licenses. What happened was, after 9/11, the federal government said because a driver's license can be used to board an airplane or enter a federal building, you can no longer issue these type of documents for that purpose, which allows for Colorado to have a second class of license. So while I understand the argument, I understand the concern, the history, though, would actually support that doing this bill to allow these people to retake their driver's test through a private facility would actually go back along the lines of what happened before 9/11, which is allowing people to get a driver's license, show they know how to use the roads, and actually increase safety across the state. So members, I would ask for an aye vote on this bill because, again, this brings us back to what the federal government's already said we can do, what other states have already done, including Utah, including Illinois, and it allows our streets to be safer by making sure that all drivers using the road know how to use the road.
Representative Conti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, we heard testimony in committee to the fact that we have 93 appointments per day. As of 2014, that we are already licensing 18,508 undocumented folks in our state per year already with the system that is currently in place. And issuing over 2,713 IDs. I believe this is more than ample, for the undocumented folks that are coming into this state. I think we've got to be very, very cautious. The taxing that they are giving to our schools, to our social services and other elements in life, and this just further entrenches them, and I believe it is fruit of the poisonous tree of 251. I'm a no vote. Thank you.
Representative Salazar.
Some very big legal concepts, fruit of the poisonous tree, which pertains to criminal law. Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry. Well, we heard this bill a few years back because of the good policy behind it. And this further continues the good policy which is to make sure that people take the tests and that they're safe on the road and pay their insurance and do everything that citizens are required to do, lawful residents are required to do. This is just a further continuation of it. And it also fixes a bit of a screw up as a result of the funding. That's why this bill is needed. So that way we can address the situation instead of politicizing it. And I'm in favor of this bill, House Bill 1285.
Representative Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just have a question about the bill. The title says concerning a procedure by which an applicant for a driver's license may use a private vendor to re-administer the driving test after the applicant fails on the first attempt. And it's my understanding that a private vendor can re-administer these tests at the present time. Can you tell me what the difference is? Because you know, I thought that could already happen.
Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Brown, to a degree, you're right. Here's the challenge. If you're a person who is taking a test at the DMV or with a third-party tester and you fail that test, the issue right now is you have to get back in line, get an online appointment, which takes 90 to 180 to potentially a year is what the backlog is. And so what this does is say, if you have already verified your eligibility for this license, that verification will remain in place for 60 days so that you can go outside, get a private driving tester to administer the test, and then get your license as quickly thereafter as possible. Just to give you an example, what happens today for all of us is that if we want to get a driver's test with the DMV, we have to wait 4 weeks. And so what we would do, and what I've done, is go next door. Generally, these small businesses are right next door to DMVs. You go next door, you get your driver's test passage, and you walk into the DMV the same way. This is basically making that opportunity the same for these applicants. The reason, the primary driver behind this is, no pun intended, is that if you are waiting for 90 days, 180 days, a year, you have to do either one of two things. You either have to rely on someone to take you to work, take your kids to work, do all these other things, or more practically, you're probably just going to get behind the wheel until you can actually get a valid driver's license. So you have folks who are driving behind the wheel without insurance, without coverage, and that's what we're trying to do, is get rid of that system so that anyone who takes these exams and fails them can take them again as quickly as possible to get licensed and insured.
Representative Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, just so I have it right, if I wanted to go, if I failed my test, my driving test, and I wanted to reapply, and I could go to one of these private vendors within a month. The next day, okay. So what we're really talking about is someone who is undocumented in the state would be able to do this at the same as I would. I just wanted to make that clear, that there's a distinction between me and someone who is undocumented, and that's what really this bill addresses, is those that are undocumented and them being able to get pass their driving test. So, thank you.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1285? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1285. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. House Bill 1285 is passed. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1257 until Wednesday, March 16th.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, House Bill 1257 will be laid over as directed by the Majority Leader. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1210.
House Bill 1210 by Representatives Rosenthal, also Senator Stedman, concerning a prohibition on conversion therapy by a licensed mental health provider.
Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1210, and there is no committee report.
To the bill, Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, so today I'm asking for your support for House Bill 1210. Basically, what this bill does is it protects children. This bill protects children from a practice that some mental health practitioners do to try to convert them to be somebody they're not. The basis for this bill is the fact that homosexuality was removed as a mental illness from the DSM in 1973. And yet a number of these licensed and registered therapists have continued to practice this so-called therapy. This is damaging to the children who undergo it. Studies have shown that minors being subjected to this therapy are higher risk for drug abuse, alcohol abuse, depression, and even suicide. This is not a radical bill. This is not novel, and it is not untested. Several other states have already passed similar legislation, and those laws have been tried, and they've been upheld all the way to the United States Supreme Court. One court in New Jersey even called it for what it is: consumer fraud. Today, we are hearing about this bill because it is necessary to make sure that we do not have this practice in Colorado. The nation's leading mental health associations, including the American Psychological Association, the American Psychiatric Association, the American Counseling Association, National Association of Social Workers, the American Academy of Pediatricians, American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy, have all issued position statements warning about the danger of these practices. Even the President, Surgeon General, have also warned that conversion therapy have no basis in science and they should be outlawed. Colorado has the responsibility to protect the children from these dangerous practices. Colorado youth and families have a right to expect that a therapist practicing under a license issued by the state of Colorado will not put their children at risk of harm, including depression, substance abuse, and even suicide. Members, let's protect the children. Let's support House Bill 1210. And members, as we start this discussion today, what I hope is that, so what I'll do is I will listen to many of your thoughts and some of your questions, and then what I'll do is I'll come back a little bit later and answer some of those. Thank you.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Rosenthal, I know that I know this bill is well-meaning, and I don't think anybody should be forced into therapy that they don't want. But if this bill passes, they also can't have therapy that they do want. And that was my concern last year. That's my concern this year. So we know that the American Psychological Association is against it. And normally when an association comes out against a particular therapy, therapists quit doing that. So I have some questions for you, Representative Rosenthal. You talked about You talked about different states outlawing this and the Supreme Court being against it. And I'm wondering when they did that. Is that recent or is that ancient history? Representative Rosenthal? Yes. I will repeat my question if I may. So the American Psychological Association has come out against this, and normally when they come out against a therapy, psychologists quit using that therapy. So I'm wondering if you know when these states outlawed this procedure, when the Supreme Court, you said it went all the way to the Supreme Court, so when was that? Is that recent or is that ancient history?
Representative Moreno.
You have an answer for me?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually don't have an answer on the Supreme Court question, but I do have an answer to a premise that people are operating off of. It's been said that the Industry Psychology Association, the Psychiatric Association, that they'll just self-correct, that they will monitor their own members and they will take care of it themselves. But we know for a fact that conversion therapy still goes on today. So it hasn't happened. Conversion therapy still goes on. The detrimental practice to our youth continues. And what this bill is about, why the state of Colorado needs a law prohibiting this horrendous practice, is that we license psychologists, we license marriage and family therapists, we license psychologists and people that practice psychiatry. So if we don't prohibit this practice in law, the state of Colorado therefore condones the practice because we allow our licensed professionals to engage in that practice. That's why this law is so important, and I thank Representative Rosenthal for bringing it.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Representative Rosenthal, we heard from a psychologist who came to testify in favor of your bill that he didn't know a single person in the industry that does this anymore. So I'm wondering, why do we need this bill? Is this a solution in search of a problem?
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In answer to your question, sorry I was so late on the draw. I should have been up here answering this question about the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court decided this back in May of 2015. These laws, particularly the one that Representative Rosenthal is trying to pass, completely constitutional. So I hope that answers your question.
Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Lebstock. So the case that Representative Salazar alluded to was actually considered on cert. It was a case called King versus New Jersey, and the Supreme Court refused to hear the cert, so they let the lower court decision stand. And so the lower court's decision, and I'll read from it, it's not too terribly long. Although we reject the district court's conclusion that A3371, which is the bill in New Jersey, prohibits, quote, only conduct that is wholly unprotected by the First Amendment, we uphold the statute as regulation of professional speech that passes intermediate scrutiny. We agree with the district court that A3371 does not violate plaintiffs' right to free exercise of religion, and it is a neutral and generally applicable law that is rationally related to a legitimate government interest. And so the Supreme Court did rule on that. To answer a couple of your other questions, you know, I hear what you're saying about well-meaning. I think we do a lot of things that are well-meaning in this chamber. But this bill is more than that. This bill is about protection. This is about making hard and fast that this thing is not going to take place.
Thank you.
If there is one practitioner who does this in this state, that is one too many. You can imagine how many practitioners of this so-called therapy, how many children this one therapist would see in a year. Dozens of children are scarred for life. We heard in committee, as you may recall, some of the testimonies of some of these children, people who are now adults, many, many years later, who are still scarred today because of a therapist who tried to get them to be somebody they are not. To answer your question also about if it is being practiced in Colorado, as we also heard, it is being heard. We heard from people who are either doing it now or wanting to do it. And not just in Colorado, but around the country too. And we heard that testimony also last year when the bill was heard, that there are people who are practicing this. But it also sends a message forward in time that we will not tolerate this harmful practice. And members, I have multiple studies. American Psychological Association report of the American Psychological Association Task Force on the appropriate therapeutic responses to sexual orientation. All right, I'd be glad to share that with the members. I have a list of studies, many studies, that show that this is a harmful practice. It hurts children. Let us protect the children from this harmful practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. And members, if we could please take a second and just quiet down a bit so we can pay respect to the members that are speaking at the well. Thank you. Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Rosenthal, I didn't hear a single person come forward and say they were doing it now. We did hear from some people who had this therapy in the past, and their stories were sad for sure, undoubtedly, no question. But the one psychologist who was there in favor of your bill said he wasn't aware of a single person who was doing this therapy. And normally these guys do talk. And another question I have is, what happens to the child who goes to a psychologist and maybe they feel confused and they want to, kind of figure out what they're going to do with their lives as far as all this goes? They can't get any therapy. If they're looking for, if they just have questions, if they have concerns, they can't get therapy. And we did hear from at least one person who wanted it to live a life different than they had been living and went to a psychologist and now was married. He was a man married to a woman. We also heard from a woman who is now straight. So what happens to those people who want that kind of I'll call it a conversion, people who want that? This would outlaw that.
Representative Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Representative Landgraf. I don't interpret the law that way. I don't think it bans it. I think what this law says is that a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist cannot impose their own beliefs, their own affirmations about conversion therapy on their patients. This bill specifically allows for therapies that provide acceptance, support, and understanding for the facilitation of someone's coping, of their identity exploration and their development. Isn't that what therapy should be all along? Providing understanding, coping. That's what therapy is, not trying to change someone into someone else.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Moreno, I believe that therapy should be whatever the person who goes to the psychologist wants it to be. It shouldn't be up to us to determine what a person can and can't have, and that is exactly what this bill does.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's interesting that we're talking about what we think therapy should and should not be. But when the professionals come to us and say, this is no longer a recognized, safe, or healthy practice, I think it's time that we listen. When the professionals in the room say, this is not a recognized, safe, or healthy practice, and side effects may include suicide, we should do our job and ban that practice. If people want to talk to their friends, if they want to talk to their pastors, if they want to talk to their family members, there's nothing in this bill that prohibits that. But when a person sees a professional, what we believe isn't nearly as important as what the professionals believe. And I just want to clarify something. Sexual orientation is not a mental illness. Whether you're straight, whether you're gay, psychologists, psychiatrists, licensed professional counselors deal with specific elements of psychopathology, and this is not psychologically pathological, whether you're gay or straight. If you're confused, you can have that conversation. If you're struggling with recognized psychological issues, you can do that. That's what therapists are there for. When you're under a registered and licensed profession, you have to adhere to that. And when this profession says this is dangerous, we need to put it to an end for that profession. Just like bloodletting. Bloodletting isn't used the same way it was used before. If I went to a doctor today and say, you know what, I've got a bit of a head cold, and he pulls out a razor, says, well, you know, it looks like maybe you're a little heavy on blood today, I might ask a question. Even if I went to a doctor and said, you know what, I've got a little bit of a head cold, you know, would you mind letting out a little blood? He'd look at me sideways and say, even if you want that, I can't do that for you, Representative Singer. This is what this bill is about. It's not about what you think things should be. It's about what the profession is asking for based off of science and research. And when lives are at risk, I think it's our job to respond to that.
Representative Conti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, we heard many hours of debate on this. One of the things that struck me was the fact that we have a fundamental misunderstanding of even what conversion therapy is today. When I talked to mental health professionals that were there, that were in support of this bill, and I said, if you are a 17-year-old and I come to your office and I say, I feel same-sex attractions, but I know that I do not want to go down this road. I want to learn to just kind of set that on the shelf and pursue a different path in my life. I know that I want to have my own biological children with a spouse of the opposite sex, and I know that a traditional family is what I want to have. And it is that child's own wishes. Let me repeat that. It is that child's own wishes. And they're not asking to be changed. They're just asking to say, I want to learn to follow a different path. Would that be considered conversion therapy? Every person, every psychological counselor that was there that was supporting this bill said that would not be considered conversion therapy. Yet, when we had very same people come to us who had been through, quote, conversion therapy, and I asked them the very same question, would that be considered conversion therapy? They said, absolutely. That is conversion therapy. So I think we have a fundamental misunderstanding of even what this is. And this flies in the face. And to your point, that you can, you know, a pastor can still give any guidance they want. Not if they have, if they bear a license. Not if they are a licensed psychologist. Their rights have just been restricted. So if you are a pastor who is also a licensed therapist, you can no longer counsel your parishioner in the area of same-sex attractions. It is forbidden. We actually heard from a pastor who came up and said, if I had a parishioner come to me, 14 years of age, young lady. She was struggling with sexual addiction. Had that addiction been towards people of the same sex, I could not have counseled her. That is what this bill does. It flies in the face of personal choice and the pursuit of freedom. And we are guaranteed that under our foundational documents in this nation. I rise in strong opposition to this bill.
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I guess we should take a look at the definition, because the definition provides you your answers. The term does not include the engagement in the practice of religious ministry by a person who is licensed pursuant to this article, as long as the person is not holding himself or herself out as a licensee at the time of the religious ministry. That's an exception. I'm not done yet. The other part of it is this. Look at the definition of conversion therapy. It means any practice by a licensee specializing in the practice of psychiatry that seeks to change an individual's sexual orientation. Those are the key words. That seeks to change an individual sexual orientation, including efforts to change behaviors or gender expression, or to eliminate or reduce sexual or romantic attraction.
That's right. Redo.
Or feelings towards individuals of the same sex. Those words are very important. This is not a violation of the Constitution. The Supreme Court has already said that it is not. So it's important to take a look at the definition of things in the context of these debates. Thank you.
Representative Klingenschmidt.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Rosenthal, for this interesting bill. Yes, I was not in committee, so I did not have the privilege of asking questions in the committee, but maybe you could explain to me the answer to two questions. And I heard Representative Salazar, thank you for highlighting the part in the bill where you're excusing perhaps people who are operating in a religious ministry capacity. I think it's important that we respect freedom of religion. But I wonder if the definition of conversion therapy in this bill has any exclusion for voluntary religious conversions, or if you're actually trying to stop religious conversions at the same time. Also, I wonder if there are any same-sex attractions that could be considered unwanted same-sex attractions, and I wonder if there's any exclusion for people, including children, who have these unwanted feelings that want to get help. Can you address those questions, Representative Rosenthal?
Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Klingenschmidt and Representative Conti, for some of those questions. So first of all, let me just kind of go down the list if I can. We talked about, it was discussed, freedom. What about freedom of the children? That's what I want to know. What about their freedom to express themselves? Because when they come in for therapy, that's what the therapy is about. It is not about the adult. With all due respect, it is not about what their family wants or the community wants. It's what does the child want? How does the child feel? And this bill is very clear. And in the example that was provided pursuant to Representative Conti's discussion with some of the witnesses, if a child feels that the child wants to go in a certain direction, this bill provides for that the therapist will help the child explore the child's own orientation, to help them understand, help them know the consequences, help them deal and work through the issues. But it is not to impose. And that is the critical factor. The so-called gay conversion therapy is an imposition of a therapist's own view, own worldview, own religious view onto the child. And that is not standard practice in psychotherapy. It is not condoned. There is no scientific basis for that. And as I mentioned, the bill provides for that, to provide acceptance and support and understanding, as long as the therapist is not seeking to change. And as was discussed earlier, it provides for a pastor or a priest or rabbi or imam to work with a child From a religious standpoint, that's fine. God bless America. It's the First Amendment. But if you are a licensee and you are meeting with the child as the child's therapist and you have an agreement with the child and you have the shingle on your wall that says, I'm a therapist, and it is understood between the therapist and the child that that relationship at that time, in the bill it says at the time of religious ministry, so if it is religious ministry, then they know it at that time. If it is a therapeutic relationship, they know it. What is it at that time? That's what the bill provides for, and it makes it necessary because if you're a therapist, the child should be protected. Any therapist in this country knows that, has trained that way. Thank you.
Representative Conti, Representative Klingenschmidt.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Rosenthal, for that articulate response. I am pleased that you're concerned about child's rights. In fact, I found a way to improve the rights of children, not the rights of therapists, but the rights of children to get the counseling that they are desiring, that the children are requesting when it comes to voluntary religious dialogue with their therapist behind closed doors, or voluntarily seeking help for this unwanted attraction that they are feeling. If the child wants this, then I'm all for child's rights, and therefore I move Amendment L004 and request that it be displayed on the screen.
Thank you. Amendment L004 is properly displayed in front of us. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, this is an amendment that increases children's rights. And children have a right to discuss with their therapist behind closed doors any topic that the child wants to discuss, including the child's religion. If the child wants to talk about in a voluntary context, and that's why I emphasize the word voluntary here, that if the child wants to talk about a voluntary religious conversion, that is not banned by this language. We don't want to ban religious conversions in this bill. And so if anyone here has a respect for the First Amendment, and I understand the Supreme Court does have many precedents in many cases where voluntary religious conversions are protected. This would also protect a child's right to seek help if the child experiences an unwanted, emphasis on the word unwanted, same-sex attraction. So if the child doesn't want to feel the feelings that they have, they're struggling with this inside, then the child can ask for help. This is a child's rights amendment, and I ask for support, and I ask for a yes vote on L004.
Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Klingenschmidt, and I appreciate you attempting to fully explore the nature of this bill and where it goes and where it does not go. And I do not believe that this amendment, L004, fits under the title because, and so I request a title ruling. Thank you.
Title ruling has been requested. We'll just have a quick recess. Committee will come back to order. Representative Rosenthal.
And thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Klingenschmidt. So we had a spirited discussion, and my thoughts, even though I adamantly oppose this amendment, I do not believe that it is necessary. I believe it is outside the bounds of the bill. I believe that it introduces an issue that is not related to the bill. I will withdraw my objection to including it so we can discuss this amendment and then proceed from there. Thank you.
Representative Janal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I object to this amendment as well because, you know, there is religious conversion. I have to tell you, I'm one of those people who converted my religion from a Protestant to a Jew. I did that on my own because I wanted to. This is not about religion. A child doesn't want to change their feelings. They're feeling rejected by family, or they're feeling rejected by friends, and they're having thoughts about if they're going to fit in. And they just want to talk to someone about these feelings. So it's not an issue of religious conversion. And if anything, this bill does not restrict the First Amendment rights of speech. It basically prohibits discredited treatments by state-licensed mental health care professionals, so it doesn't apply to the clergy or to individuals who are providing religious instruction. And so I ask for a no on this amendment. Thank you.
Representative Conti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, that would be possibly thought to be the case until we heard from a pastor who was also a licensed therapist. In the process of becoming, he's working on his PhD, already has his master's in psychology. The two do coincide and two do well exist. And in any church of any size, you will find licensed therapists on staff, in the pastoral staff. This is not that uncommon.
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And let me tell you the fallacy of this amendment. Voluntary religious conversion, that has nothing to do with this bill. What would involuntary religious conversion be? Would that be the Holy Wars? Would that be the Inquisition? That's already outlawed. We don't do involuntary religious conversion, so I don't know why this is a part of the amendment. The second part is that it's a little bit more complicated than what you just wrote. Except for unwanted sexual or romantic attraction. What in the world does that mean? You've provided no definition to that whatsoever. Nothing. So therefore, we should strike down this amendment just because it's vague and ambiguous, which likely would cause it to be unconstitutional. I ask for a no vote on L004.
Is there further discussion on Amendment L004? Representative Leonard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would rise in support of this amendment because the words sexual or romantic attraction are actually words coming out of the original bill itself. But the key words in this amendment are unwanted. We've heard some discussion on this values-oriented bill that we're protecting the children from something that they are not. The only problem is that the children are actually coming to the therapist brought by their parents as a minor, and they're coming because they have conflict. They don't know what they want. They don't know what they are. But this bill specifically focuses on what cannot be said to them and mandates what can be said to them. This amendment allows the children to be able to express what they want and don't want, and it's in a religious context that they may want or not want these. So I would ask for your support on this amendment.
Is there further discussion on Amendment L004? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L004. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No! The noes have it. The amendment is lost. To the bill. Representative Court.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, for me, this is pretty simple. This is about who somebody is. Does anyone else have a right to tell you who you are? That's a therapist, your parents, somebody in the community? No, I don't think so. I think who I am and what I believe myself to be is my right. That's no one else's right to decide that for me. So I think this bill is about giving young people the right to acknowledge who they are and giving no one else the right to tell them who they should be. So it's very basic for me. I encourage a yes vote on this bill.
Representative Fields.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I stand in strong support of House Bill 1210. And it's very simple for me. It's because love has no cure. Love has no cure. And what I know from the professionals, the mental health professionals, is that they use a DSM, which is a reference to identifying behaviors that they consider a mental illness. A person's sexual orientation is not a mental illness. And it's already, this practice has been outlawed. Love has no cure. We don't want to be doing anything that's going to harm a person. So we need to stand in strong support of House Bill 1210.
Representative Landgraf. Representative Conti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just ask, if this has been outlawed, then why do we need this bill? Further, we heard testimony from licensed psychologists telling us that there was a fundamental misunderstanding of what this is. This gets back to the fundamental question of if kids at the age of 15 in this state have the right to pursue therapy without their parents' consent, which we're already acknowledging that they have that right, they should not be further barred that they cannot pursue this if it is their wishes. And that is what we are fundamentally taking away. We're not talking about taking away, forcing something on a child. We're talking about their fundamental self-determined wishes. And that is being absolutely denied. And the long and heavy hand of government has no place inside the confidentiality of a patient-therapist relationship. We have no place dictating what can go on inside private therapy. That is not for the hand of government. That flies in the face of patient-doctor confidentiality. This bill is riddled with problems. We saw and heard numerous testimonies that show that there is great confusion with our therapists as to what this bill is, as to what it will accomplish, as to what it even means to practice conversion therapy. And by the therapist's own admission, if a child was coming to them and it is their wishes, they would not consider that conversion therapy. Yet, many other legal experts, when they were reading this, thought that it was. Therefore, how can this possibly be policed? How can this possibly be dealt with? And that is the fundamental problem that is contained within this. There is no accommodation for the self-determination will of that minor child. I remain in opposition.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Oops. And thank you, Representative Court. You very succinctly made my point. Children do deserve to be happy, and they do deserve and should be able to make these decisions for themselves. And this bill, if a child is confused about their sexuality, if they don't want to be gay, they want to be helped The other direction, this prevents that. And it also, and I think probably the worst thing, it puts government in control of the sexual identity of children. It takes away a parent's rights and responsibilities. It puts government in control of what happens in the therapist's office, violating the confidentiality of clients and patients, clients and therapists. It makes no sense to me. I ask for a no vote.
Representative Leonard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have heard conversations here today that this bill has to do with love. Luckily, we had no testimony on that, and luckily the government is not yet interfering with love. We're here, and this bill describes very clearly what is and what is not allowed to take place between a patient, a minor patient, and his or her doctor. That any therapy that seeks to change an individual's sexual orientation, their gender identity, including efforts to change behavior, meaning the therapist and the patient cannot want to change behavior or gender expressions, or to eliminate or reduce sexual or romantic attraction or feelings toward individuals of the same sex. So my guess is one can have those with the opposite sex, but there is an underlying worldview, as somebody said here, that if one is under the age of 18 and is conflicted about relationships or their identity or anything about their changing human sexuality, they must not have any discussion by their therapist other than exploring same-sex attraction. So this does fly in the face of any parental rights or any values that the child, the patient would have. So that is a free speech and the right to pursue happiness. This bill dictates that they can only achieve their happiness through their therapy if it's with a same-sex attraction. And that would violate the next issue, which this bill is trying to exclude, run a fine line of what about ministers? We heard testimony from somebody that says, I'm a licensed marriage counselor and child therapist that also holds a license by the state, that DORA does not recognize dual relationships. So DORA would not recognize the language here that's trying to be excluded, which is that the minister would say, I'm going to take off my license hat from the state and I'm going to act as your minister. Well, DORA would not acknowledge that. And obviously, I bet anyone that was in support of this bill that would say that you weren't acting as a minister, you were acting as a licensed therapist. So it's very difficult to separate those two. I would also be concerned about folks that were ministering, administering therapy that were not ministers, like Catholic Charities. Catholic Charities has an arm of therapists. They're under a religious designation, and yet this bill would not exclude them. So if a licensed therapist from Catholic Charities were to follow the beliefs of the parents and possibly that child in therapy, they would fall under this and they would not be allowed to administer any kind of therapy that would be toward opposite sex attraction or to change behaviors or expressions or any other feelings that the child may have. And that would obviously not only conflict with their free speech rights, but it would conflict with their religious liberties. Lastly, I would point out that besides the parental rights issue, that this is in strong opposition. We heard some testimony today that said, who cares what the parents or the family thinks? It's what the child thinks. Well, the child is in there under the age of 18 because the child is conflicted. They're coming for answers. They've gotten answers from their family, from their parents possibly, from their friends and siblings, and now they're seeking professional advice. The long arm of the law is stretching all the way into the therapist's office on this bill. And it's only coming down on the side of one point of view and not the other. And I would urge for a no vote on this bill. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Representative Esgar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I was hoping to not have to come down here and talk about this bill as I did last year. But some of the questions that were brought up, I couldn't stay away. When we talk about the mystery of unwanted feelings and people not wanting to be gay, being gay is not a choice, and it's not something you necessarily want to be because it's just not that easy. Wanting to bury my feelings for years caused me so much anguish and depression. This bill simply saying if a child goes to talk to a licensed therapist about these feelings, the therapist can talk to them about it, but they can't impose their own ideology and change them, convert them. Conversion therapy is what we're saying. Luckily, I went, granted I was an adult by the time I decided I couldn't deal with these lies I was living anymore, and talked to my therapist. She walked me through what I was feeling to help me make my own discovery. And I have to tell you, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my entire life because I am who I am, and I am living my truth. These kids we're talking about that we just keep throwing around, the kids deserve to discover their own truths without someone telling them what is right, what is wrong, and what they should be and what they shouldn't be. That's what this bill's discussing. I know real kids who have gone to this conversion therapy and have come out completely harmed. One just attempted suicide this summer, and thank God his aunt found him when he did. He's been in other therapy now with a new therapist who's walking him through it. Has he decided what his life's going to be like? No. But this therapist isn't judging him, isn't telling him he's wrong, isn't telling him that because of his religion, he can't be this way or God won't love him. Members, this is about the kids. We keep talking about that. Remember that when we vote. I stand in complete support, once again, of this bill and thank Representative Rosenthal for bringing this important issue back to the chambers.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1210? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1210. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. House Bill 1210 is passed. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1224.
House Bill 1224 by Representative Lundin concerning child abuse involving human trafficking of minors.
Thank you very much.
Representative Lundin.
Thank you. I would like to move the bill, the committee report, and I have an amendment to the committee report.
To the committee report.
I'd ask that the amendment to the committee report be displayed.
And Representative Lundin, you need to move your amendment.
Please. I'd like to move L009, the amendment to the committee report.
L009 has been moved and is displayed before you. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. So this bill, which basically defines trafficking of a child as child abuse, was well vetted and worked on through the committee process. This additional amendment has come out of those conversations. It is something that was requested by the counties to make clear what law enforcement will be doing and what human services in the counties will be doing, and also to give a little bit more headroom, some time for the counties to prepare to put these services we'll be offering to victims of human trafficking to work.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank Representative Lundeen for working with the State Department. This is a good amendment to make sure that we actually, assuming this bill passes, the counties and the state actually have the time, or the state specifically has the time to catch up to the work that they're needing to do, and making sure that this rolls out in an effective way that will actually serve our families in a better way.
Representative McCann.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just, I'm a little confused about the amendment to the committee report because line 5 says amend page 4, strike lines 2 through 11, but there is no page 4 of the committee report, unless I'm misreading this. Just
Page 4 of the bill.
That is, in fact, a great question.
wait, it looks like our chief clerk maybe has.
Okay, so that makes sense. So the amendment to the committee report is referring to page 4 of the bill.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Lundeen.
I would ask for the adoption of the amendment to the committee report.
Is there further discussion on the amendment to the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L009 to the committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report
Thank you very much.
amendment is adopted.
Thank you. So I would ask for the adoption of the committee report as amended.
Is there further discussion on the adoption of the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the bill. This is a bill that identifies the fact that is common sense when we stop and think about it, and that is trafficking of a child is child abuse. It adds human trafficking of a minor for involuntary or sexual servitude to the definition of abuse or child abuse or neglect in the law. It requires county departments of human or social services to immediately, with some qualifications, offer services to a child reported to be a victim of human trafficking. And the bill requires the State Department of Human Services and county departments to implement a very important and underdevelopment screening tool to help understand what's going on. The bill is supported by the Office of the Attorney General, the Colorado District Attorney's Council, the Innocence Lost Task Force of the FBI, the Colorado Coalition Against Sexual Assault, Kemp Foundation, Colorado Court-appointed special advocates, the Office of Child's Representatives, the ARC of Colorado, various county sheriff's departments, and my home county sheriff's department, the El Paso County Sheriff Department, Colorado Counties, Inc., and the chiefs of police. I would urge an affirmative vote on this bill.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1224? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1224. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1224 is passed. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar until Wednesday, March 16th.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, the remainder of the calendar will be laid over at the request of the Majority Leader. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move, Madam Chair, I move the committee riser report.
I don't think you're going to get a fine for that one. All those. Will the committee rise and report?
The House will come back to order. Mr. Kohler, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Madam Speaker, Committee of the Whole begs the reports under consideration following attached bills being second reading, therefore makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bills 1210, 1224 amended, 1285, 1306 amended, passed on second reading in order of gross place on counter for third and final passage. Senate Bill 94 passed on second reading in order of revised place on counter for third and final passage. The balance of the general orders calendar laid over until March 16th, retaining the place on the calendar.
Representative Danielson.
Speaker, I move the House adopt the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Members, may we have your attention? You have heard the motion, and there are amendments on the desk. Mr. Kohler, please read the Klingenschmidt amendment to the Committee of the Whole.
Representative Klingenschmidt moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee in not adopting the following Klingenschmidt Amendment L004 to House Bill 1210 to show that said amendment passed and that House Bill 1210 as amended passed.
Representative Klingenschmidt, the amendment is before you properly.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the Klingenschmidt Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole amending House Bill 1210.
Please proceed, Representative Klingenschmidt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this is a child's rights amendment. This amendment allows a child to undergo voluntary religious conversion. This bill is about banning some kinds of conversions. Okay, I get that. You're going to ban some kinds of conversions, but not voluntary religious conversions, are you? Really? Or how about unwanted same-sex attraction? I was inspired by Representative Escar's speech here, where she went to a therapist and got the help that she wanted for herself to change from the feelings that she had to the feelings that she wanted. Now, why should we ban other people's same feelings? If someone struggles with unwanted feelings and they go to a therapist and the therapist helps them become straight, are we really going to punish the therapist for helping the child struggle with these unwanted feelings? This is a good child's rights amendment. It helps people convert both ways. Instead of just banning one way and saying, well, it's okay to become gay, but it's not okay to become straight, this would allow the child to address with a therapist the feelings that they want to go either way. So this is a freedom amendment. It's a child's rights amendment. And I urge a yes vote on the Klingenschmidt amendment. Thank you.
Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I come out in very strong opposition to this amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole. It is completely unnecessary. We discussed this, we debated this issue. It is now a moot issue because we had already voted on this. And with all due respect, I think it just re-injects a matter that is not related to this bill, and therefore I urge a no vote.
Is there further discussion? Representative Duran, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I encourage you to vote no on this amendment to the COW. Representative Klingenschmidt, I heard a very, very different story that Representative Escar shared. And the story that I heard her share is some of the tragic consequences that can happen when children are told that if they are GLBT, that God will not love them. And she also told the story of children who have had suicidal thoughts as a result of receiving that conversion therapy. Members, this bill is about protecting children. If this amendment passes, you are going to take away that protection to children. You are going to take away that child's right. I ask for your no vote.
Is there further discussion on the Klingenschmidt amendment to the Committee of the Whole? Seeing none, the question before us is the Klingenschmidt amendment to the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 30 ayes, 35 noes, and no excuse. The Klingenschmidt amendment to the Committee of the Whole is lost. There are no further amendments on the desk. The question before us is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 63 ayes, 65 ayes, no noes, and no excuse, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted.
SJR 15. SJR 15.
We have an amendment. Message from the Senate.
Madam Speaker, the Senate has adopted and transmits herewith Senate Joint Resolution 15.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to suspend the rules for the immediate consideration of SJR 15.
The motion is to suspend the rules for immediate consideration of SJR 15. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. That motion carries. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of SJR 15.
Senate Joint Resolution 15 by Senator Lambert, also Representative Wyden, concerning 75 years of the Civil Air Patrol in Colorado.
Representative Wyden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I move Senate Joint Resolution 15 and ask that it be read at length.
Whereas Civil Air Patrol was founded on December 1st, 1941 to supplement the United States military during World War II and is celebrating its 75th year. And whereas in 1948, Civil Air Patrol was designated as the United States Air Force's official auxiliary with 3 missions: emergency services, cadet programs, and aerospace education. And whereas since Civil Air Patrol's earliest days, the organization has set itself apart during the country's most tumultuous times, locating enemy submarines during World War II, assisting rescuers and state agencies immediately following the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, heavily supporting hurricane relief efforts in 2005, 2008, and 2012, assisting in the response to the Gulf Coast oil spill in 2010, and aiding communities during other natural disasters such as floods, wildfires, ice storms, and tornadoes. And whereas the Colorado wing of the Civil Air Patrol served prominently in assisting FEMA and state and local agencies during the floods and wildfires in the state in recent years. And whereas the Colorado wing of the Civil Air Patrol conducted 20 search and rescue missions in 2015, resulting in the saving of 3 lives. And whereas the Colorado wing of the Civil Air Patrol further provided vital Homeland Security missions that helped ensure the protection of the nation as a whole by assisting Air Force pilots with target intercept training. And whereas the Colorado Springs Cadet Squadron has unsurpassed participation in the finals of the National Cyber Patriot Cyber Defense Competition, Colorado Cadet Squadrons have won honors in drill and color guard competitions and continue to provide cadet volunteers who assist and support in community events and disaster exercises, thereby increasing the cadets' awareness of the importance of being good citizens. And whereas the Colorado wing of the Civil Air Patrol provides exceptional educational and growth opportunities for youth through its nearly 800-member-strong cadet program, emphasizing leadership and careers in aviation. And whereas the Civil Air Patrol's aerospace education program annually touches cadets and others in classrooms across Colorado, teaching multidisciplinary aviation concepts that emphasize aviation's connection to history, math, science, government, and economics. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the 70th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that March 14, 2016 be designated Colorado Civil Air Patrol Day at the Colorado State Capitol, and that the members of the Colorado wing of the Civil Air Patrol be congratulated on the significant accomplishments of their many missions in recent years and on the wing's continued excellence in providing leadership and guidance to cadet squadrons, fostering an attitude of selfless community service and an abiding interest in aerospace education. And that the Colorado wing of the Civil Air Patrol be congratulated for its demonstrated readiness and willingness to augment and assist sheriffs, search and rescue forces, and other emergency responders across the state and the nation.
Representative Wyden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. As we discussed a little bit earlier this morning, I think a lot of us were surprised when we first learned about the Civil Air Patrol and really got to understand the important role that they play in our state. It's just a huge service to us, and it's people just volunteering their time and their skills to keep our state safe and to keep our people safe, and just a wonderful organization. I'd like to say, if any of you have children or grandchildren that are approaching the teen years, this is an organization that they can get so much value out of and could really have a lot of fun. They get to fly in airplanes and gliders and do some really exciting things, as well as get involved in the cybersecurity competitions, where so many of our young people are really into the computer technology world now, and this is just a great outlet for them. Madam Speaker, if it's appropriate, I did give a list earlier of folks that we thought would be here, and now I would like to introduce them and have us welcome them in person.
Representative Ryden, if you'd like to wait until we vote, then we can do that for everybody. Is there further discussion on SJR 15? Seeing none, is there objection to taking a voice vote? Seeing none, all those in favor of SJR 15, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion carries. SJR 15 is adopted. Do you have a motion for co-sponsors? Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I move that we add the current list of our current roll call as co-sponsors to Senate Joint Resolution 15.
The motion is to add the current roll call as co-sponsors to SJR 15. Is there any objection? Seeing none, so ordered. And now we'll have just a brief recess so you can introduce everybody. Hold on just a second. We're in recess.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, if you would please welcome Colonel Celeste Gamache, the Wing Commander, Colonel Gary Toby, the Government Relations Advisor, Lieutenant Colonel Gary Falls, Director of Cadet Programs, Captain Lynn Parker, Director of Public Affairs, Lieutenant Colonel Tom Scheffel, Captain Reed Lester, Major Helen Gray, and Major Wes Morosco. And members, once again, I would like to thank our cadet honor guards who came, our color guards who were here this morning, the Valkyrie Cadet Squadron Color Guard, Cadet Captain Michael Melton, Cadet First Lieutenant Filipa Martinovic, Cadet First Lieutenant Kyle Visteca, Cadet Second Lieutenant Kyle Herricks, and in the House we had the Mustang Cadet Squadron Color Guard, Cadet Captain Chad Lewis, Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Andrew Connor, Cadet Staff Sergeant Noah Morgan, Cadet Airman First Class Spencer Clancy, and for our Pledge of Allegiance, we had Cadet Second Lieutenant Nathaniel Levitt, and for our prayer, we had Chaplain Jeffrey Williams. Please give them a hand again. And members, I know you all received this brochure in the spirit of conservation and tight budgets that our Civil Air Patrol has. Once you have finished it, if you would return it to the sergeants, so that it can be used again for other folks to give them the message. Thank you so much.
Okay. The House will come back to order. Thank you, Representative Ryden. And welcome, everyone. So, Madam Majority Leader, are we going to move forward with an... Okay. The next order of business is announcements and introductions. Yes, Representative Norberg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, please help me and join the students from Academy International Elementary School from Colorado Springs up in the gallery there. Please welcome them. Go, Brian. Come on, Brian.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the Business Affairs and Labor Committee, tomorrow we'll have a slight change to the calendar. We will not hear House Bill 161114, but we will add House Bill 161001. Thank you.
Representative Vigil.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of the Agricultural, Livestock, and Natural Resource Committee, we meet at 1:30 today in room 107, and we'll be hearing House Bill 161228. It's the Arnton Becker bill, the Water Protection Transfer Mechanism. So we'd like to start on time and be there at 1:30. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Vigil. Representative Buckner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We have some very distinguished guests here today. They're here with a project entitled Women Political Leaders. I'd like for them to stand. We have Ms. Rashid, Ms. Mohan, Ms. Firtaus, Ms. Marin Mentor, Ms. Dr. Tara Narala, and Nisha Sa. They're from Nepal, the Maldives. I'm probably forgetting some of the places they're from, but we also have the president of an Islamic Women's Association, a news editor with us today, and I'm just so proud to entertain them, and please go over and introduce yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Buckner. Welcome, and that's only a $2 fine. Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I'd like to announce not anything about my granddaughter this time, okay? But the return of two important things back to the Capitol. My wife will be back Wednesday, and the hot dogs are coming Thursday. So.
Further announcements or introductions. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar until tomorrow, March 15th.
The motion is to lay over the balance of the calendar until tomorrow, March 15th. Seeing no objection, so ordered. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess until later today at 1:30 p.m.
The motion is to stand in recess until later today at 1:30 p.m. Seeing no objection, so ordered. We are in recess.